Hi guys, for this session, we'll learn about the functionality copy to. So copy to is a standard functionality of SAP Business One. So if we open, for example, a sales order, this is the sales order that we have created last session. Then on the lower left button, we have a copy to button. So we can copy a sales order document to a delivery, an AR invoice, and a reserve invoice. So we can do that on the UI or on the SAP Business One client, but we can also do that on the SAP Business One using the API. For now, we will copy. We will do the copy to functionality using the API. So first, we drop a copy to button. Then, first is we copy the sales order code yesterday. So the same sales order, we will create a same sales order as yesterday. And then after we created the sales order, we will create the invoice. So before we do the invoice, first is we get what is the doc entry of this sales order. Please remember, there are four properties we need to set to achieve the copy to functionality. Number one is we need the base type. Base type is what is the source document? It is a sales order, a delivery, or any or a sales quotation. Next is what is the base entry? Base entry is what is the base document entry. So for this example, we need the doc entry of the sales order. And then next is the baseline. We'll set what is the baseline. So for always remember that line items, so line items in Subbish 1, here in the UI, you can see that line items starts at 1, but on the back end, on the SDK, it starts at 0. So if we have this line is under line 0, and then the second line is at line 1. We need that on the copy to functionality. So before we proceed with the copy 2, first is we need to learn what is the doc entry. So luckily, in SAP Business One SDK, we have the functionality get new object using the company object. So uh, we can get the doc entry of the new object that is created. In this case, is the sales order doc entry. So first, we need to declare variables that we will use. So we will create first the sales invoice because we will create a sales invoice. So sales invoice is also a document. Then also we need a sales invoice line because we have a line item on the sales invoice. So it's document lines. And then again, we need the base entry. Okay. So the base entry is the doc entry of the created sales order. So we will create this as string. Okay. So that's the variables we added. And then let's go to the end of the code of the sales order when we prompt the user that sales order is already added. Then here, we can get the doc entry of the added sales order. So how can we do that? S base entry equals to, under the O company object, there is a functionality get new object code or object key. Okay. So here it returns the doc entry of the sales order. Okay. After that, okay, after that, we create the sales invoice. So first is we initialize the sales invoice or company that get business object, get get business object, then that will be O invoices. If you don't know, you can visit the SDK help. Okay, O invoices, and then we set the O sales order, the card code, O sales O sales invoice, that card code. So the card code should be the same as the card code we use on the sales order. It's mandatory that it should be the same. If it's not the same, we will have an error. And sales invoice dot doc due date. So we need to set the doc due date again. You can set it today for our sample. And then we initialize the sales invoice line equals to O sales invoice dot lines. O sales invoice dot lines. Okay. Then we set the properties. For the properties, we don't need to set the item code or the item code because we need to set the base entry, the base type, and the baseline. So first is sales or lines that base entry. Base entry is the doc entry of the sales order. Then we set the base type. Okay. Base type is this is what is the type of the base document. So in here we have the sales order. So we can use the subbubscom dot view object types dot o orders. Okay, and then we will set the baseline. Baseline is what line will we copy. So here we will copy the first line and the second line, which is the first line is line 0. Okay, and then we can also change how many quantity will we invoice. Okay, we can set the quantity, how many. So in the order, we set 100, but we can only invoice a 50 for partial invoice. And also, we can set the final price, unit price. But if the price is the same as the sales order, no need to set the price, the unit price. So it's not mandatory to set the unit price. And then we call the dot add for the second line. Then we copy this one. Then change the baseline to number 1 because we will have this the second line. Okay, and then we will not put the quantity, but we will change the unit price. From 5 pesos, we will use 6 instead. Okay, so we can change the unit price and the quantity on the sales invoice. And then we call that add. So I will only copy the so O sales invoice dot add, then check if we have an error, else our invoice is added. So That's the script of the copy to functionality. So first, we create the base document. In this case is the sales order. After we added the sales order, we get the new object key, which is the doc entry. And then we create the sales invoice. We set the base entry, the base type, and the baseline. So this is important on the copy to functionality. These three objects, high properties, base entry, base type, and baseline. Then we call sales invoice add, start. So we check if we have successfully created. So first, we have a sales order added. Then the second one, we have an error, tax account is missing. So we have a configuration error. So let me check my B1 because we have a configuration error. With tax account is missing. We'll just add a tax account on the configuration. So let's check. Again, we run the script. Copy to, sales order is added, invoice is added. So if we can see the sales order, this is our sales order, and we have a base document, a target document after we created the sales invoice. So this is the target document. So that's how we script a copy to functionality of SAP Business One using DI API. So that's all, guys. See you again next session.